Okay guys, today we're going to move on and go to chapter 5. We're going to start with section 5.1, properties of exponents. You've seen these before when in Algebra 1 and probably sometime in junior high math. So go ahead and write down the title, properties of exponents. And it's important that you guys know these because oftentimes students get these confused. So you need to make sure you know these properties. Again, notice your objective. You're going to apply these properties to simplify algebraic expressions. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. We start off with the product of powers, which says that you're going to, when you have the same base, you add up the exponents. For example, x cubed times x squared, you add and you get x to the 5th power. The power of a power, a lot of people get those two mixed up. When your exponents are close to each other, just remember that when two numbers are close to each other with no symbol, you multiply. So for example, x cubed to the 2nd power, so again the numbers are close to each other, you multiply the exponents. Then we have a power of a product. This is when you have two different bases raised to a power. What we do is we distribute that exponent to both of the bases. So even if you have a number, let's say 2x to the 3rd power, you still distribute that 3 to the 2 and the x. And you have to simplify that, of course, which is 2 to the 3rd would be what? 8, right? So it'd be 8x cubed. Okay, and that would apply if that was, instead of a 2, if it was a different letter like y, or if it was a and b, like that example there. Okay, so then we go to negative exponents. You can't have negative exponents, so there's a property that says whenever you have negative exponents, you do the reciprocal. And this applies vice versa. For example, if you have, this is going to go here. For example, let's say you have x to the negative 3rd power. Then you would flip the x, not the 3, you would flip the x. So it'd be 1 over x cubed. And the 3 becomes a positive. When you flip it, it becomes a positive. The same thing goes with if you if it's already on the bottom. So let me give you a different problem. Let's say it's 1 over 2 to the negative 3rd power. So instead of it being in the bottom, you would flip it and it would go to the top. So it would be 2 to the positive 3rd power. So again, when you flip it to the top, it becomes positive. And then of course you have to simplify that. Okay? Okay, then we have another property that's called the zero exponent property. I erased my examples here. Hopefully you guys had them. This says that anything to the 0 power equals 1. Okay, be careful because you can have, let's say, negative 2 to the 0 power, but because it doesn't have parentheses, this would be negative 1. Versus if you have, let's say, parentheses negative 2 to the 0 power. So now you're including the negative to the 0 power, and that would be 1. Okay? All right, then you have quotient properties. So this one says when you divide the same base, then we're going to subtract the exponents. So again, when you have the same base, we're going to subtract the exponents. So for example, let's say you have x to the 5th divided by x cubed. You subtract, and this is important, it's the top minus the bottom. So 5 minus 3 would be x squared. Okay, because if you had it the other way around, where it was x3 on the top, here, let me give you another example. So let's say you have x squared divided by x to the 5th, you would have 2 minus 5, which would be x to the negative 3rd. Okay, and then you would use the property of negative exponents, and you would have to flip that. Okay, so make sure you got that. Okay, and then the last one, this thing is super sensitive. I don't know what the problem is. The last one is when you have the two different letters and it's raised to a power, you need to distribute that exponent to both the top and the bottom, the numerator and the denominator. For example, and this applies to a number also. If I have 2x squared over y to the 3rd power, all of that to the 4th power. You're going to distribute that 4 to everything. So you have 2 to the 4th x, and then remember you multiply the exponents. 2 times 4 is 8 over 4 times 3 would be 12. And yes, you would have to simplify the 2 to the 4th, which is, again, 2 times 2. Oops, I don't know what's wrong with my laptop here. 2, 2, 2. Okay, so that'd be 16x to the 8th over y to the 12th. All right, give me a sec. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply all those properties to other examples. Okay, so we're going to use these properties to these examples here. Notice that they're numbers and not variables. That's okay, you can do that. We're going to distribute that 2. So I'll have negative 4 squared times, remember that you multiply 5 and 2, so you have 2 to the 10th power. Negative 4 squared is 16, then 2 to the 10th power. When you work this out, you would get 16,384. Okay? All right, take a look over here. This one you could do a couple ways. You can notice that they have the same base. So you can go ahead and subtract. Remember that you will subtract 5 minus 8. So remember it has to be the top minus the bottom. When you subtract, you get negative 3. And that's to the negative 1 power. And then you can multiply negative 3 times negative 1, which will be positive 3. And you can leave it like this. If you have a calculator, then you can go ahead and multiply that out. But if it's a big number to a big exponent, That's not too big, but you can just go ahead and leave it like that. The other way you could have done this is you could have distributed that -1. Then you would subtract. And the other way you could have done this is, notice that it's a negative exponent. You would have to flip the 11 to the 5th would go to the bottom, and 11 to the 8th would go to the top. Then you would subtract, and you would still get 11 to the 3rd power. Okay, let's go ahead and work this problem out here. It's a little bit more complicated, so there's a lot of properties that we're going to be using here. We first want to distribute that 2. And remember, you're multiplying, and you also have to distribute to that negative. So what do you get when you have a negative to an even power? Positive, right? So you have a, remember you multiply the exponents, 3 times 2 would be 6. B to the 2nd. Do the same for the bottom, but this one has a negative to a odd power, so that one's going to be negative. 3 to the 3 times 1 would be a cubed, and then 2 times 3 would be b to the 6th. Now in the numerator you have 2 a's and 2 b's, so you want to add the exponents for the same variable, same base. Don't forget that this is a to the 1st. So when you combine or add the a to the 1st and a to the 6th, you're going to get a to the 7th times b. Actually, you don't really need that times there, but b to the 6th over negative a cubed b to the 6th. Now it's dividing. It's the same, b to the 6th divided by b to the 6th, so we can cancel that. This is a positive divided by a negative, which is a negative. What do we do with the exponents? We subtract them. Good. So we have a to the 4th. Okay. All right, let's try another one. Okay, what about this one here? This one, it's quotient, division, and you have an exponent on the outside, so you're going to distribute to everything. So you'll have 2 to the 4th. Remember, you multiply the exponent, so it'll be r to the 8th over 3 to the 4th, p to the 4th. This is a very common mistake here. Don't forget to distribute the 4 to the coefficients. It absolutely goes to all of them. Work it out. 2 to the 4th was 16, r to the 8th over 81, p to the 4th. There's nothing else you can do here. You can't reduce the 16 and the 81, so you leave it like that. All right, last one. Okay, take a look at this one here. Again, you distribute the exponent. This one has a negative, so you're going to have x to the negative 6, y to the positive 6, over x to the 5th, y to the 6th. This is a good question because notice that the only one that has a negative exponent is your x. That is the only one that's going to get flipped. So the y's cancel. When you flip the x to the negative 6, when you put it on the bottom, notice that there's nothing left on top. You have to put a 1. And then finally you add the exponent, 6 plus 5. This is actually a multiple choice. So what would your answer be here? A, B, C, or D? B. Good. All right, so that's 5.1. Please work on the worksheet that I left for you guys, and I will see you, or I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.